I would like to call the City of Bloomington Board of Public Safety meeting of February 15th, 2022 to order. And I would like to first certify that the Board of Public Safety conducted an executive session on February 15th, today, 2022, commencing at 5:30 p.m. to discuss employee conduct, and that no final actions were taken on the matter. All right, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the January 18th, 2022 meeting?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Nicole, will you please call the roll?
Kim,
Yes.
Luis,
Yes.
McQuiba.
Yes.
The motion carries. All right, Police Department business. Chief Dekoff.
Yeah, we'll get right into the monthly statistics. In your packet, you will see the statistics that we usually submit to you. I'll just kind of highlight some of those. So calls for service for the month of January were 3,509. That was about a 400 call for service increase from January of last year. Looking at the major categories, crimes against property were down slightly in this year versus last year. Crimes against persons was up slightly this year over last year. Traffic accidents were down. So there's not a huge difference in calls. Aggravated assaults were down slightly this year versus last year. Sex offenses, unfortunately, were up, but not a great number. Excuse me, not a great number of those were reported. And simple assaults were up in January over January of last year. Thefts were down, burglaries were down, forgeries were down slightly this January versus January of last year, but fraud and vandalism were both up slightly. Robberies were down this January versus last year as well. Going into domestic violence cases, January we had a total of 43 reported, where in January of last year we had 35. There's no update on hate crimes because we do those quarterly, and those will be reported at the end of the first quarter. Going into the training report, we had 551 total hours of training. We had 9 officers participate in crisis hostage negotiation, and it was a 40-hour course. We had three of us who attended the Indiana Associations of Chiefs of Police training in January. We had no community engagement in the month of January. The police social worker contacts, they had a total of 35 referrals and 437 contacts. They continue to carry a caseload of about 105 clients and families amongst the 3 social workers that we have. Community service specialists, which are non-sworn members of our department that handle minor calls, took a total of 266 calls in the month of January, most of those being minor traffic accidents that they investigated. And that is it for the monthly statistics and training. The letters of appreciation and accommodation, I don't see any in the packet for this month. General business, we continue to just be busy and short-staffed. Not really much else to report on general business unless you have any questions about anything.
I don't. Does anyone else?
I see that the I'm just looking at it. It says the updated like hate crime areas 2019, 2020. I'm assuming that we don't have 2021 yet. Is that a reason? Because we just
They may
finished
not be,
2021?
yeah, they may not be totally calculated yet.
Okay,
Um,
that makes
So,
sense to me.
well, I have the 2021 data on mine. There's 0 reported that were at the last quarter. So for a total of 3 total for the year.
Okay.
Do you have that?
I see 2020. The only ones that I see is 2019 and 2020.
Oh, well, for 2021, we had a total of 3 for the
Okay.
year. And 2022, we don't have any, it's done quarterly, so we don't have any to report this yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Alrighty, any upcoming expenses we should be looking for?
I don't remember, but if there would be any, it would probably be vehicle purchases.
Okay,
Personnel issues. So we currently have 86 sworn officers, but that includes 1 person who's on extended military leave and 1 person who is out on a medical disability and will be soon retiring from that. So we have 19 current openings. We have 3 people that start on Monday, the 21st. 1 is certified, 2 are not. So those 2 will eventually have to go to the academy. We do have a couple of certified officers that are getting ready to test with us later this month and at the beginning of next month. So hopefully we will be able to add those certified people to the ranks, because then they don't have to go to the academy. And that's it for personnel issues.
alrighty. Thank you. On to fire department business.
Can I actually ask something real quick?
Mhm.
Is it possible to do the ARV report right now, just in case I have technical issues? Because things are working right now, but I don't know how long that will last.
Sure.
So
Search
we
ARV
had-
deployment report.
we had 3 in the month of January. 1 was an attempted murder call out where the CERT team was used in the armored rescue vehicle to help protect them. Another was I'm trying to read these notes here. So one was a person armed with a rifle at the IMU, which you probably saw that. That resulted in someone taken into custody and no one was injured. And the third one was, I believe it was assisting the sheriff's office on one of their call outs where they had a person that was armed and barricaded.
Mhm.
That was the burglary in progress where he was inside the house armed with some rifles, and we went and assisted them and took him into custody. In all 3 of these incidences, no one was injured or hurt, and they were successful conclusions.
I think this is the highest number of incidents
It was a
using
very
the
odd
ARV.
January, yes.
ever. Yeah. And as a side note, I wonder why we can't fold in this report into the police department business. I wonder if there's a reason.
I would actually appreciate that, because then it would just keep
Yeah.
kind of the flow going.
Okay, I'll ask
And
the team.
my luck with technology, it would probably cut down on the possibility of me disappearing.
Okay. All right, I'll work with Chris and the team on that.
Thanks.
Okay, fire department business.
Great, thank you. So you can see from our updated statistics, we do have a few things that I want to point out in this particular meeting. We did point out these differences that we're going to be tracking in our metrics in the State of the Public Safety Address. But real quick, for operational statistics, you can see in January, it is well above our norm. In fact, just some highlights of what is going on and what we've been tracking. So for January, compared to January of last year, it's a 45% increase for that particular month. It's nearly 2 times the number of fire calls, 2 times the number of false alarms, 6 times the number of service calls, and 2 times the hazardous conditions. So believe it or not, the EMS calls is actually not the problem. We ran 6 less compared to January of last year. So we are seeing similar things with IU overall. You can see that their call volume is sticking around their norm, but we did see an increase in some of the more severe calls. So I would say, just like the police, January was a very odd month, but it was a very serious month. Major and significant incidents during that month, we did have an apartment fire. Crews were able to contain that and not have the entire apartment complex displaced. And there is a house fire. It's over by the Shalom. Crews ran into a lot of issues. This is one of those things that we talk about. Homes that were originally single-built homes, and now they've been cut into pieces for renters, and it's 4 or 5 different little apartments. So the fire started on the outside, got inside the walls, and just an example of why it was such a big loss. In some areas, there were 3 layers of drywall that our crews could not get through to get to the fire, which allowed it to progress up into the roof line. So talking about that, generally when we get there, we can salvage the structure and keep it from progressing. But if you drive by and see that, that's one of those things that we have here in Bloomington we are worried about. And people may ask you about it. Those are still the house fire itself, and we do have one other fire that I didn't list as a major, but we do have suspicion of arson. So we are working with BPD. That is an ongoing case that we can't necessarily discuss, but it is being pursued as an arson case, and we're hoping to find who did it and prevent it from happening ever again. The response times and goals, this is the big change. You noticed we used to just have the one goal in the bigger chart. We are tracking individual parts of our response times now. The turnout time is from the time we receive the call until we get on the trucks and go. That is probably the only portion of this that we can directly control. When you talk about the arrival times, those are travel. That's where was the station built? What is the construction? What was the traffic? There's a few things we can control. Do we choose the best routes? Things like that. But realistically, the turnout is the only thing that we have a lot of control over, and we are going to be posting these goals and tracking why we are not on them and why we're not making those goals. But anyway, so we have in our budget goals and our thing, we have 3 major sets. So we're going to be looking at the structure fires themselves. We have a goal of the turnout time for the structure fires and for the other calls being 80 seconds. The reason being is you have to put on all the gear. The EMS is only 60 seconds because you don't have to put on all the fire gear. The first arriving time, which is for all 3 types, is when did the first unit get there, which is generally when we start making things better. On the structure fire calls, just because you get there quickly doesn't mean you can necessarily handle what you're dealing with. So the final thing that we look at on that is what we call the total response force, which is, according to the ISO and others, is at least 2 engines and aerials. So when did you get there with enough people to actually start operations? So all of those goals, you'll notice that we are in the red or the yellow, except for the total response force. And this is a big, clear indicator of why we're normally successful. Is it doesn't necessarily matter how quickly you got there with the first unit. It's if you don't have enough people there, you can't do everything, and we are very successful in that. So moving forward, we've talked with our senior staff. We're developing tools to track why we're not meeting these goals. I talked about this in the State of the Public Safety, but it's good to reiterate. We are looking at all the reasons why. In other cities that have done this, found poor station design. Example I used was, I believe in Chicago, they were seeing from the hours of like midnight to 4 in the morning that they were having delays and problems, and they installed a few extra urinals, and all of a sudden they met their response goals. So we're looking at beyond just the human element. We're looking at whether or not we set our firefighters up for success with our stations, how they're designed. Even with some of our shortfalls being in a temporary headquarters, is that causing issues? So we will report these, and hopefully they will get better, but if not, we'll at least have reasons as to why they're not better and what we would need to do to make them better. For prevention, we did hire our new deputy fire marshal. So it's still going through orientation. So we're not going to see the full impact of having another full-time inspector. But we do anticipate that we're setting goals. We're setting kind of their monthly quota. We will see our inspection numbers come up. We are also adding back in the pre-plans. We've talked about it with our senior staff at December of last year that we need to get back into these businesses. That's an inspection activity that helps us find problems, but it is also a good community contact. So you can see that it looks like we're not meeting any of those goals, but it's also the first month, and a lot of our stuff happens. We plan and prepare for when students or even the K through 12 students come in. For training, we're slightly below the overall departmental goal, but we'll get into this with our staffing. But I just want to point out that we are down 7 positions, plus we have an additional 8 that are out on long-term leave. So if you were to take out the number of hours those would have contributed, we would have been well above our hours for the month. So those are things that we're constantly tracking and we're evolving. So that is it for statistics. And you want me to just carry on into everything else? So
Thank you.
yep, we didn't have any letters of accommodation for this monthly report. Again, say it all the time. They let us know when we do something wrong, but they very rarely tell us when we're doing something right. So it's not a negative reflection on our staff. I will point out with that, that we generally try to do our annual award ceremony on February 17th. And I am behind the ball, so I will not have it done. But we are going to be honoring and recognizing some of our top performers. Because of COVID, we're still not doing it in person, but we will make that on social media. We'll put it out. And make sure that you get a copy of the press release with all the names and the things that people have done that was above and beyond and good. So moving past general business, for large expenditures, we do have several that you will see. The lead cleanup activities finally have come to an end. All of the paperwork got done. I did mention this, but we did make an error. It should have been paid out of last year's funds. So I am going and working with the controller's office to fix it, but you should see somewhere in the realm of about $120,000 total for all of the lead cleanup. That's about $95,000 for the people that actually did the cleanup work, and then another almost 25 for the people that advised all the cleanup work and provided that beautiful 1,000+ page environmental report that went out to the public. You'll also see several, and I'm sorry I don't have dollar figures on this. I didn't get ahead of this with Chief Washell prior to, but we did have 2 air conditioning furnaces that went out during the cold weather that were replaced, and we have started contracts on some remodeling activities at stations 2, 4, and 5. Those are considerable amounts that are going to be coming across. So I think like the Station 5 remodel is somewhere in the realm of $40,000 or $50,000. AC replacements are generally around $6,000 to $10,000. So I apologize for not having the exact numbers, but you will see, especially in our category 4, a lot of large expenses getting ready to come out. And,
Category 4. What is
that
that?
is our capital expenditures. That's where we pay for buildings, vehicles. All of our vehicles that have been ordered, they're not here, so you won't see those expenditures yet, but we're waiting, and when they get here, we'll let you know that they're here and we're going to pay for them.
Great. Before we move to personnel issues, I wanted to know what are the plans for your next permanent station location, headquarters location?
Great question. So we are still evaluating properties. We have now been put in from city admin, put in touch with a realtor. So they have given us about 8 or 9 properties to review. We are doing all the due diligence, looking at what it will do, the response times, seeing, we've got engineers that we run it by for a general high-level overview before we get into a legitimate due diligence contract. So where I'm at today is we're down to only 2 properties left that to even evaluate. Most of them have been invalidated because of within the floodplain. They will cause a detriment to our response times, or we're looking at you would need like 4 of the plots together, and 2 of the plots are available and the last one's available, but the middle one's not. And I don't know that we want to necessarily move towards like an eminent domain type situation. So that's where I'm at, is we're still evaluating. There is still forward movement from the mayor's office on finding a new location, or coming up with how could we redo the current headquarters so that this will never happen again. So we are still evaluating all options, but yeah, I'm starting to run out of ideas. So if you have anyone that wants to sell property downtown,
Yeah.
feel free to let us know. We're looking for
Yeah.
about,
I'm sure CFC is being considered. Yeah. All right, personnel issues.
So I'll go over the general, and then I'm not sure necessarily we do have a promotion, and then the thing that you discussed with the executive session. So for general, we are down 7 positions currently. March, we do have a recruit class that we are hiring off of the list that you approved. We had 7 lined up, 7 approved in the perf, and 2 just dropped out in the past 2 weeks, citing pay and personal issues. So we will be moving forward with the 5 remaining. We cannot get 2 more through the entire approval process in time for recruit class. So that is an issue. When we're looking at our overall staffing and overtime, we're approaching what we were last year, being down 15 positions. Because in addition to the ones we're actually down, we have 6 on FMLA and 2 on workers' comp that they will not be back anytime soon. So those are being filled with overtime currently, and it is an issue for us. I think that's about it for the general overview
Okay.
of personnel.
All righty. So we're on to the promotion of Josh Blackwell. Do you want to say anything before we have a motion?
I would love to have a brief moment. He is on here with us, by the way. That's something that the board asked. So he is here, so he can hear all of the good things we're going to say. But Josh Blackwell has done well, especially in my time as the chief here. He is over at Station 2 currently, but he's done a great job for us, and I wholeheartedly recommend that he is promoted per that memo with the date that is on it. And again, thank you, Josh, for being here, and thank you for your service. And hopefully this works out with the board promoting you tonight.
All right, board. Can I get a motion to promote Josh Blackwell to chauffeur effective February 2nd, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Congratulations. Oh, we gotta wait. Sorry. Any discussion? Would you like to discuss? Would you like to say anything? Okay.
Mr. Blackwell, no? Okay. Hearing no discussion, Nicole, will you please call the roll?
Kim,
Yes.
Luis,
Yes.
McQueeby,
Yes.
Motion carries. Congratulations.
There we go. Congratulations.
I've given him the option to unmute if he wants. Sorry about that.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
I've not done these Zoom meetings, so I don't know how they work, but thank you.
You're doing great. You unmuted. That's the first challenge. Yeah.
Step 1.
Well, thank you very much for your service.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Have a good evening.
You too.
You are free to stay if you'd like, but but congratulations.
Mhm. All right, we're on to another personnel issue.
All right. So what we have, there's all the disciplinary memos that have been issued to the employee have been sent to you. I know you met in executive session, but essentially, I want to pull up this. I'm not going to read it to you, but essentially it has been appealed through the board, which is his right, and it is on you as the board to review that. All I did was give a brief overview of where this policy came from, the history. So the COVID testing policy for the city was effective December 6th. We in our department issue standing orders that mirror the city policies when they come out like that. So we did issue a standing order on January 1, or it was effective January 1, that outlined that after February 8th, that if you do not comply with testing, and you are labeled as an unvaccinated, which it's a voluntary, you let us know that you are vaccinated. There was the incentive program for the $100 incentive, reduction in the healthcare insurance, and all those. But if you were on that list of being labeled as unvaccinated, that you had to submit to weekly testing. So there was an update to that city policy, but it did not have an impact on this. We wanted to point out a few things. One, that we're not forcing anyone to review medical. They can choose not to. They just have to follow the rules for those that are labeled as non-vaccinated and are required to do the testing. And essentially each employee can choose to either report or not report. Since that deadline, we have now had 2 incidences where Mr. Casey has basically refused to take the test, which in the rules and regs is defined as insubordination. He has received a write-up for each instance. We did want to point out with that in our write-up, we did mention that each shift that you were supposed to report to work, that you were non-compliant, would be treated as a separate infraction of that rule, and would be treated in a similar manner, which is a 24-hour suspension. So I don't know that I need to get into the details other than that the city administration feels that, you know, even under the collective bargaining, that this is within the city's rights to establish this policy, these programs, and that an employee must comply or else face board or chief's discipline. And so we are asking that you uphold the chief's discipline at this point. And again, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Mr. Casey is online here for you here as well.
Yeah, we'll have an opportunity to get to questions as part of this. Thank you for that recap. Can I get a motion to deny the appeal of the 2/10/2022 Chief's discipline of Kenneth R. Cole?
Kim, I'm going to interrupt. I'm sorry, but since the city had an opportunity to speak and address this issue, I'd like to allow firefighter Casey to also address the board and give his position before you ask for a motion.
Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think that's
No,
probably
that's fine.
fair. Since you let the city speak, I think we all should allow the fire.
All righty. Mr. Casey?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's my first time using Zoom too, just like Mr. Blackwell was, so still getting kind of used to the system. So I appreciate you letting me have the opportunity just to speak for just a few moments. I had actually several different reasons as to why I have refused to go ahead and follow through with the testing that's being required with the city at this time. And one of the main reasons is just for the fact that the union itself, Local 586, firefighter union, actually has an appointment on Friday, this coming Friday, I think somewhere around 9 a.m. I could be wrong on the exact time. I'd have to look at that again, to actually bring in a case to sue the city over these issues. And that's one of the biggest reasons is I don't understand why we're forcing this when we haven't even heard the case legally against the city through appropriate attorneys is one of the main reasons. And of course, there's several other issues. And if you would like to hear those, I can list those as well. But that's one of the main reasons right now. We're just a few days away from hearing them. So I don't understand why there's an issue at this point in time.
I think you should go ahead and list them, and then if you can change your name at the bottom, that'd be helpful.
If I could change what?
Just for purposes.
I'm sorry, let me jump in. Yes, Ms. Firefighter Kazee, go ahead and list all of your reasons, but don't worry about trying to change your name at the bottom. Just go ahead and list your reasons.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, I had put in my Board of Public Safety in the legal department when I wrote up this appeal. I was appealing because one, that reason that I just mentioned, as well as being forced off duty without pay until I provide that COVID test. And that kind of falls underneath that same reason as well. But it goes as far as Indiana Code 16-39-11, which prohibits municipalities, which is city and state governments, from requiring employees to produce an immunization passport or proof of vaccination, and even requesting proof of vaccination. That is a state code that the city of Bloomington is breaking at this point in time, as well as requiring proof of this vaccination or even the regular testing, because no matter which way you look at it, you're requesting something that is against a code of the state of Indiana. Also, it is a HIPAA violation as well for me to provide any type of medical history and or to submit to any type of medical procedure for my position. Also, the policy imposes disciplinary processes outside the process created by the collective bargaining agreements within the city towards the fire department itself. And it can overreach with the agreement with our firefighters. So it's pretty much stating that this is a either take it or lose your job, pretty much is what it's saying over after 3 occurrences and then going back before the Board of Public Safety. With that being said, that's not in our collective bargaining agreement. Nowhere in the collective bargaining agreement is this even mentioned that this would be an issue. So again, I don't see that as a reason for me having to test. And with those issues, I'm being also forced off duty for 40 hours without pay, over 40 hours without pay. The chief can only put me off for 40 hours without pay. And I've been off for over 40 hours without pay, which is against our rules and regulations within the city. And I know that chief, and of course I have nothing against the chief at all. So Chief Moore, I don't think I'm mad at you in any way, shape or form. But just that being said, I know he's looking at it as an individual occurrence, like occurrence 1 and then occurrence 2. And within the collective bargaining agreement, that is one concurrent issue, is because I was told that until I provide a self-test or submit to a test, I can't come back to work. So that being said, I'm off in a streak of over 40 hours without pay. As well as the Departmental COVID Standing Order 2022-1, the OSHA COVID testing. It also states underneath the procedure section that the results for the fire department, and that was also came out as a memo from Fire Chief Moore on the 2nd of January, I do believe. I do have that. I'd have to look it up to the exact date. I do believe it's 2nd of January, that it states underneath that procedure that firefighters, because we're not regular city employees, we work every 3rd day, 24 hours at a time, that we are required to test once a week, just like every city employee. But ours would be either a Monday, a Tuesday, or a Wednesday that we work. And the 2 occurrences that I have been written up for and sent off without pay, neither of those days, one was a Thursday and the other was a Sunday. Neither of those days, according to that policy and that memo, has fallen on the days that are required, which is a Monday, Tuesday, or a Wednesday. So that being said, I just feel like I'm being discriminated against just for the fact that I refuse to provide a proof of vaccination, which is my right under the Indiana Code and state law, that I don't have to provide that. And if I don't, then therefore I'm subject to a weekly test, and not all employees are testing, just the ones that have chose not to reveal whether they're vaccinated or unvaccinated.
Are you saying that you would have gotten tested had the test been available on the days that you were there?
I'm not stating that one way or the other.
Okay, I thought that's what you were, why were you referring then to those days? Those specific days then?
Because I'm referring to those specific days just because those days are set for the testing. But I was sent home because I refused to test on a Thursday or a Sunday. Those test days that are set are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So it's just outside the whole process. It doesn't say that I'd be tested on any other day of the week. It says a Monday, Tuesday, or a Wednesday. And I was on a Thursday and a Sunday that I worked during that week.
All
Are
righty.
we open for conversation right now, Chris, or what's happening?
Well, we weren't really scheduled to have a hearing, but after the city spoke, I wanted to give the firefighter an opportunity to speak. And given that we've now had the firefighter speak, the city should have an opportunity to give a rebuttal. At that point, I think it's time for the board to decide if it can form a motion and a second, and then there'll be discussion amongst the board about that motion.
Okay. Thank you.
I think, Chris, if you could correct me if I'm wrong, this motion today would then be whether or not there's a full hearing. Is that correct?
Whether or not there's a full hearing,
Yeah,
No,
so I
there's-
mean, if the board upholds it, then is this the end of it? I'm just trying to make sure before I get into rebuttals. Again, I
once
don't
there's a
necessarily.
motion, if the board,
Chris has been having a little bit of technical. Chris, you're in and out.
I understand that. I hope you can hear me.
Yes,
If
we
the
can hear
board
you now.
moves, if the board moves in seconds and has and makes a decision on this, that's the end of it. That's the final decision. It's a final decision that's from an administrative relief perspective.
Okay. I don't know that I necessarily need to get in and rebut any or all. Some of that gets into a lawsuit with the union and the city, which Mike Roker can speak about if we need to. But again, I'm just going to stand by the memo that I supplied, that we feel that it was within the city's rights, management rights under the collective bargaining agreement, to institute the policy and to carry out the policy, and that by refusing to, that it is insubordination. And we also do see these individual occurrences. So like a good example, I believe Mr. Casey would be on Kelly Day tomorrow. So that is one of the exclusions under our policy. Like if you're not here at work, so he would not receive a write-up for the day he's not supposed to be here. And then the following shift that he would be, we would be back to another write-up and another chief's discipline for another occurrence. So I don't know, Mike Roker, do you want to speak to any of the lawsuit side of it? I don't. That's outside of my expertise on this.
Thanks, Jason. Thank you, board members. Michael Rooker, I'm the city attorney. I'm standing in as the fire department's attorney right now since Jennifer Lloyd departed. I don't know that there's any rebuttal that we would give specifically. Of course, if the board had questions they wanted to direct to anybody at the city or Mr. Casey, we'd be happy to answer those if you have any questions about anything you brought up. But I don't have any direct rebuttal related to what the member said.
All righty. All right, I'm going to move that we get a motion. Can I get a motion to deny the appeal of the 2/10/2022 Chief's discipline of Kenneth R. Casey?
So moved.
I second it.
Oh, I thought you was going to ask. You normally ask if we get a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was waiting. Okay, can I get a second?
A second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I mean, for me, there's really no discussion based off of rereading the collective bargaining agreement and also the policy. I'm not connecting the dots as to why there needs to wait until the union meets on Friday to figure it out when it was enforced December 6th. And then I'm not understanding. I thought that was a great question, Kim. I don't know if it was in order or not, but it was a great question to ask whether or not, if you were to be tested, on the days, Monday, Wednesday, whatever days you mentioned, would you then adhere to that? And then my other thought is that there's no actual fact that people that are tested or not tested, if they have a vaccination or not. So those are some of the things that kind of came up to my mind. So we wanted to discuss as a board.
All right. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I don't have
Here-
a lot to add. I mean, this is one of those moments on this board. There seems to be some kind of disagreement about the law, about the facts, about, so in the end, it comes down to me to what is our role as a board, knowing as little as we know. So the issue that came up about the Chief Moore, when he raised a point about a hearing, which we've done in the past, and I don't know specifically about this situation, this moment, and this decision that we're taking. In the past, you have a hearing, lawyers show up, we hear both sides, and then we can decide differently. This is not that moment, and I'm not suggesting it needs to be. I don't know. I don't know why moment. You know, that based on what we have, there's basically one of those, this is so limited information that I don't know what else we're supposed to decide here. The city says we have the legal authority to do it. The documents are given to us, we read them. It seems right. I mean, and the lawyers have seen it. I am glad to hear that they're having conversations at the city with the union. To Akuba, to your point earlier about why now, why this took this long for the union, I don't know, right? This is one of those, another issue in question that I don't know. And based on the little that we do know, I don't know what else we can decide here. And so really, this is just one of those puzzles about the Public Safety Board. So I don't have anything else to add.
All right. Hearing no other discussion, Nicole, will you please call the roll?
And I'm sorry to interrupt again. Just to let the individual know who's raising their hand, you'll have a moment for discussion. It's just not right now. So just letting y'all know.
All right, Kim,
Yes.
Luis,
Yes.
Maquiba,
Yes.
That motion carries. Can I get a motion to deny the appeal of the 2/13/2022 Chief's discipline of Kenneth R. Casey?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Nicole, will you please call the roll?
Kim,
Yes.
Luis,
Yes.
Maquiba,
Yes.
That motion carries. All right, old business. I don't think we have any old business. We handled the CERT ARV deployment report already. Verbal certification of payroll from 12/17/21 and 12/31/21. Chief Dekoff has given his already.
And
Chief.
BFD is correct as well.
Thank you. All right, we're to the petitions and communications section of the meeting, and we are limiting to 3 minutes per person. If you can raise your hand, and Nicole will let you in. If you could please say your name when you come in.
Kim, I've just now put the directions to
Okay,
speak in the chat as well.
okay. I'm not seeing anyone other than Jordan.
There is
Jordan?
Jordan.
Yeah, good. Hi, Jordan.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes, can you say your full name, please?
I'm Jordan Canada. I'm the union president for the fire department. And I was just wanting to get on the same page. I had it was cutting out for Mr. Casey's appeal. You guys denied him on the 2/13, is that correct?
We did deny his appeal.
Okay. So even for the rules and regs that we currently follow, that was not discussed, I saw, and just wondering, Louis had mentioned, you know, what's right and what's not. I think it's pretty clear in the rules and regs of what can be done and what can't.
So Jordan, in this time, we typically don't respond back. So if you wanted to continue on sharing your thoughts, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. I'm done then. I guess you guys made your decision and we will seek other legal options as this has been finished.
Thank you. Nicole, do you see anyone else? I'm not.
I do not.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.